Welcome back everyone to Data Science for Everyone. Today we're going to be looking at bokeh as well as yfinance to create a financial dashboard. Let's get started. So first off, let's go on and create up a new file, and I'll call this bokeh finance dashboard.py. And we're actually going to be recreating, and let me actually pull it up really quickly. So this is actually going to be very similar to our final product in here, but we're doing a bit of a recreation of, if we go to bokeh gallery in here, and we actually take a look. This is going to be one of their server examples. We'll go down here and we can actually take a look at what their final product is. So we can see here that it has a correlation plot in here based on the returns. They have a selection tool, okay, where you can select multiple stocks, and then it will actually give in a plot of each of the stocks time series as well as their returns. And then it also has in here a descriptive statistics section in here. Now this area in here, this descriptive statistics area, I'm not a big fan of just putting in the raw text, and so we're going to actually go on and use some of bokeh's data table to create a nice, cleaner, interactive table in here with the descriptive statistics as well. So, and again, one other thing that it has in here is if, for example, we highlight this section in here, it'll also tell us where those values are. So all of this data is interconnected. Now, I'm going to also do this in a little bit of a different way than they implemented. I believe that the way that I'm going to do is a little bit more simple. So let's go on and get started with this. So first off, let's go on and import pandas as PD. Let's import yfinance as yf. And then we're also going to say from bokeh.io import in here curdoc. Now, we haven't done this before. We haven't used bokeh server yet, but this is what we're going to be doing today, because here we're actually going to be hosting up the server and running everything so that it'll actually be a little bit quicker, particularly whenever we want to maybe cache data or something like that. This is how most of the servers are going to wind up running. We're also going to want to go from bokeh.models. We're going to import in here, we want column data source. We want our selection to create our selection tool. We're going to want data table to create our table, and we're also wanting a table column. And we may or may not actually need that. From bokeh.layouts, we're going to import in here the column and the row. And then the next thing we want in here is from bokeh.plotting. We're going to import in here figure, and we do not need show because we're going to be using curdoc here for the show, and the show is actually going to be done in the command line. So let me also zoom in just a little bit for today. Now, first off, let's go on and create some default tickers. Now, you guys can feel free to pick up any number of tickers that you want. In a previous video, we did like all of the S&P 500 data. You can go on and do that. I'm just going to do just kind of a select few. So we'll do Apple. Let's do Google. Let's do Microsoft, Netflix, and Tesla. Now, I'm only just picking a few of these. So, for example, if you guys are making this to check up, maybe start doing portfolio analysis or something else, you'll be able to do that by, again, just picking out whatever tickers you guys have in your portfolio, and then you can use that to run your analysis. And again, this can be just blown up as big as you want it to or as small as you want it to. I'm just doing something that's slightly contained and everything that's nice and clean so we don't overlap stuff. I'm going to have a start date and an end date in here, and we'll do something like 2018 to, let's do 2021 01 01. Okay, and again, you can maybe later on, something that you would want to do is, I'm going to just have these as static for now, but maybe you want to allow people to select a range and you want them to be able to get data that way. That's something that we could also do in the future. Now let's go on, and one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to definitely make this, I'm going to do functional programming, so we'll be creating a lot of functions in here so that everything is nice and kind of clean and calm. So first off, let's define load ticker in here, and this will be something like tickers. So this will take our list of tickers. And we'll do something like df is equal to yf.download here, and then we'll have our tickers. And then we want in here start is equal to our start, and end is going to be end. Okay, and then I'm going to return from this. I only want, let's just do just the closing data. And then do drop NAs on there to get rid of any missing values. And then let's go on and create up let's go on and create up getting our data as well. So I'm actually going to create up a static data set in here, and this will be something like a load ticker, and then we'll set in here our default tickers. And this way we'll be actually downloading all of our data kind of at once, so that once we want to render everything, we have just a static data file that we can grab and do stuff, because we can do this dynamically if we want to using an API or something. But if, at least for this example, I want to kind of simplify everything for us. So we've grabbed in our static data. Now let's also do definition and do something like get data. And here this will take in some data frame D. We want in a T1 and T2. T1 and T2 here refer to tickers. So then we want to actually go on and grab our T1 and our T2. And so what this will be doing is, so for example, with the example that they have here, they have these selection tools, right? So they're actually selecting things. This is T1, this is going to be T2. All right, so then that's how we're going to subset our data. Okay, now we could have it so that, for example, we load this load ticker inside of here and only grab 2 at a time. But for ease of speed, okay, particularly when we're wanting to change these up, okay, so let me change something here. Okay, there's a little bit of load time in here because, again, theirs is using a bit of an API hook, that type of thing, and it may be a little bit slower. If we have this just static data set that we're using, it's going to be a little bit faster on the get-go. So let's do returns here, and so we'll calculate up the percent change in terms of doing the changes. Now we're going to also add in a suffix. Okay, so then we can do something like underscore returns. So then now let's go on and override our data frame by actually grabbing, and we're going to grab these 2 data frames in here and do something like pd.concat in here, and we'll do our data frame with our returns on axis is equal to 1. And then we'll also do something like df.rename, because one of the reasons I'm going to be renaming here is the following code, okay, that we're going to be doing. I'm going to be doing everything in terms of T1 and T2, so that's very generic. We can do this in, again, a couple different ways if we want to, but again, just for now, we'll do it this way. Columns in here, and let's say something like T1 such that T1, T2 such that T2, and then we'll do something like T1 plus returns is going to be in here t1 underscore returns. We'll do one more in here, t2 plus underscore returns. Such that we do t2 underscore returns. And then this we're going to return in here our df dot drop in a. All right, then the next thing we're going to want to do is create up something that will actually grab, well, let me actually write this up first here. Let me do our tickers. So next up we create our tickers. So tickers 1 here is going to be a selection. Value here, let's have our start be Apple. And then this is going to be out of the options. In here, we'll have some function, we'll call it nix, and it'll originally be something like Google, and then it'll be something from default tickers. And so what this nix here is, we're going to say we want any, and you know what, let me change this to Apple. And so this one will grab, for example, any it'll grab the index of whatever this default ticker is. So let's do something like def nix in here and say val from our list, and we'll do something like return, and we'll do a list comprehension x for x in some list if x is not equal to the value in here. And actually we actually want to do something like Google in this instance, because here we'll do tickers 2 is going to be select value is equal to Google. In here, options is going to be nix Apple default tickers. And so let's kind of talk about how this is going to be working. So for example, notice in here when we are grabbing everything, let me change this up to Google. So notice whenever we select in here everything, this is Apple, NTC, BRM, BC, notice the other option, Google, for example, isn't in here. So whenever these are opposites, we don't want the other one to be located in that list. Okay, because then, for example, you don't want to have someone be able to do Apple and Apple. Again, that's just going to be a straight line in here, and you're going to have the same option. So you want them to not be able to pick the same two items in there, and so we're going to exclude them from the list. So that's what's going to be happening here. So the next thing that we're going, the next thing that we're going to want to go on to do is to actually create up our data source. Okay, so, let's go on and get that started. What happened in here? Okay, just a little bit of OCD kicking in there. All right, so the next thing that we want to do then is let's actually source our data. Okay, so first off, let's do data is equal to get data in here, and this is going to take in our static data, our ticker 1, and let me actually change this instead of tickers. I don't like tickers. Do ticker because it's a singular. Let's do ticker 1, comma ticker 2. And then actually from in here, what we want is dot value. Okay, dot value. And what this will do is this dot value in here will be whatever value that is placed in here, it's actually going to grab that text and put it in. So then again, we know that we have our static data. And maybe... I'm thinking about running all of this because here we're actually running this here. So what we can do is we're going to change this up to simplify everything. We're going to get rid of this. This here is going to change to, let's say tickers. And we'll do something like, actually, I guess we don't need that. We can try this real quick. We'll change this up, and then we'll do something like D is equal to load ticker, and we'll do something like a default tickers in here. And this should, and then D. Okay, that should work. And then here now, we should be able to do this. Now, let's just double check that everything's working. So let's do something like print data dot head. Okay, and so let's run this to double check. Oh, and something is broken already. So again, sometimes I like to spot check things to see where things are broken at. And for some reason, oops, I don't know what happened here. What is that? All right, let's go in and delete that. Enter. Okay. Did I accidentally cut that out? Nope. All right, let's try that again. Okay, and so here I already have something issued in there. This is suffix. Let's try that one more time. And again, this is why I like to kind of spot check. All right, so this definitely worked in here. It actually went through and it grabbed in our data set. Okay, it printed out our data. Now it didn't do something in here. So our get data value 1, value 2, for some reason, let's take a look again. Here, it did not actually rename these as we wanted it to. So let's check and see why that didn't happen. So maybe it didn't like that. Okay, so now let's go on and try that one more time. Still didn't go through, so then let's go through and double check that we have everything in here. Okay, so one thing that I forgot to do in here is this, and let me, again, I do need that over there so you guys can see it, is I did this renaming in here, but I did not put it as in place is true. Okay, so this in place is true is actually going to have it run on this data frame and then actually be able to push it out. So now if we do this, it should say, yep, T1, T2, T1 returns, T2 returns. Good. Okay, so then that will actually allow us to do that. Then let's go on. So now we actually have data. So then let's actually source out our data. And so this will be column data source in here, and we'll say data is equal to data. So now our data is sourced. So then let's go on and create up some plots in here. So first off, we'll do the correlation plot, and we're going to create up some tools in here because we want, for example, if I go over here, notice that this tool here is a box tool, but then this tool down here is actually not a box tool. It's actually a selection tool just for a whole section. Okay, and so we'll go on and actually use those. So one I believe is for that is we want the pan, we want the wheel zoom, And then what was that? It's a box select, and then reset. Okay. Then we'll also have just some normal tools in here, and this will be something like pan, wheel, zoom, an X box select, and a reset. So now that we have our tools, let's go on and create up our figures. And we'll have to do a little bit of math in here to kind of add this up, because notice here that this, for example, this box here, there's a little bit of extra space in here that I'm not a big fan of. So let's go on and actually do some of that. So our first plot is going to be the correlation. So we'll do figure in here, and we'll do a width is equal to, let's say, 350. So then our height is going to be 350. Our tools here is going to be our core tools. Then we'll do something like core dot circle, and then here we'll do T1 returns, T2 returns, size here is going to be 2, source is equal to source, and then let's have a selection color in here, and I'm going to choose fire brick, and then our alpha in here is going to be 0.6, non-selection alpha. So once we actually select everything, we want it to look very transparent, will be 1. Selection selection alpha is going to be 0.8, because we want it to actually not 8, 4. We want it to kind of stick out a little bit, and that will do our first plot. And maybe what we'll do here, so we can kind of see things, let me actually grab a show in here, and we'll do each of these in turn. So the next one in here will be show core. Right. It's not section color, it's selection color. All right, so now we actually have our first plot in here. Notice we can move around. If I do this, we can zoom in, we can zoom out, and our selection box works. And notice here that it just makes everything kind of disappear at the moment. And that's because Firebrick doesn't exist. Let me rerun it. And so now we should... Yep, now we have Firebrick. So it actually really shows up. Our reset button works. Let's zoom in and let's grab a section again. Okay, that works. All right, so our first plot is actually working. So then let's go on and create up our next couple plots in here. And these are going to be identical. So we want something like let's say time series 1 is going to be figure, and then here we want our width is equal to let's do 700 for now, and then our height here is going to be something like 250. Tools is going to be tools. And then x-axis type here is going to be a date time. And then we want in here active drag. So that's whenever we're actually going to be grabbing and doing that selection area in here, that is going to be our X box select in here, and I think that's going to be a little long, so let me you down here. And then let's go on and do our ranges. Okay, so we want in here ts1 dot, and we'll do line. And so the index in there is date. And then we want t1 for whatever it is. Source here is going to be source. ts1 dot circle in here, and here we're going to do date. We're going to do t1. Now the reason that we're doing this is so that when we do our selection tool, because again, when you do a selection, the line itself, actually you don't really select the line. You need to put something over the top of it so that you can select it to make that color change. And that's what we're going to do here. We'll do size is equal to 1, source is equal to source, color is going to be none, okay? Selection color here is fire brick. Okay, and so that means that they're technically going to be clear, and then any time that we actually highlight them, they will turn to that fire brick red. And then our last thing that we're going to want to do here is ts2 here, and then we're going to say figure here, width is equal to, we want 700, height here is going to be 250, tools is equal to tools. In here, x-axis type is equal to date time, and then our active drag is going to be x box select. And then let's go on and add in here our ts2.x range is actually going to be ts1.x range. Because again, we want them to be in the same date range, because again, sometimes the data sets that we have here, there's going to actually be a little bit of difference in the time series itself, so you need to make sure that they will look the same, they'll actually share the same x range. ts2.line. In here we want date, we want t2, and then source is equal to source. Then we want ts2.circle. Here we want date, we want t2, we want size is equal to 1, we want our source is equal to source, color is equal to none, selection color here is fire brick. Okay, so that should go on and actually plot out both of these. And so let's actually maybe give this a try here. Let's do something like show column in here T1, TS1, TS2. Okay, and we can see here that they both work. We have the selection tool, and they both share that type of selection in them, where they can actually go and we can grab a selection in here, and they will select everything for us. That does quite well in here, so you can see that those red dots showing up. Can actually, should be able to click on that and zoom in so we can see the dots a little bit. You can kind of see them a little bit there. And again, you guys, when you're working on it, you can see it as well. So let me go, and you can also see here, let me reset and let me zoom out. Here you can see here that it actually just holds that date range that we had selected before. Okay. So all right, so we know that those work. So then the next thing that we actually want to do in here is add in some callbacks for our interactivity, because currently we haven't linked our selection tool to our selection tools to our actual plots themselves. Okay, so that's going to be our next thing here. So let's go on and create some callbacks in here. And first off, let's do ticker 1 change. So whenever the ticker actually changes, now we need a couple attributes in here because we're using, we're going to be using them as a callback. So we want the attribute name, old, new. Now inside the function, we're actually not going to be using these two items here, okay? But they are necessary, okay? Let me say that they are necessary because they won't work with when we're using the onChange method with our selection tool. So here we'll do ticker 2 dot options is equal to our nix new with our default tickers. Okay, and then we're going to make a function called update. And we haven't made the function yet. Don't worry. We're gonna use that here in a second because we have to actually tell everything to update whenever we do it. Let's go on and actually create a ticker 2 change here, and it's basically going to be the same thing that we just created, but it's going to be ticker 1 dot options default tickers, and then we want update. Okay, so now let's go on and actually create this update function. So what are we actually going to have it to do? First off, our data here is going to actually be just the static. You know what? We don't. What did we call it before? Let's not worry about it right now. I'm gonna leave it blank for a second. And then let's do T1, T2 here is going to be our ticker 1 dot value, our ticker 2 dot value. Then we'll have our data set is get data in here, which will be, again, how did we change that? That's just going to be T1, T2. Okay. T1, T2. And then here we'll do source.data is equal to df. So, and then here we'll do stats underscore source is going to be have we done our descriptive statistics yet? We haven't done our descriptive statistics yet, okay? So we'll need to go and do our descriptive statistics here in a minute. Let me go on and finish up this update. So we need to make a stat source, and we'll do data is equal to, we want round, it'll be the data frame dot describe in here, dot reset the index, and we want to round this to 2. All right, and so we need to go back and create that here in a second. We have our correlation dot title dot text here, and we need to actually format this. So we'll do something like we want some string returns versus some other string returns, and so here this will be T1, T2, and then we want our time series 1.title.text, and here also we want our ts2.title.text here is going to be T1, T2. All right, so we need to go back, and let me actually go on and finish this callback section in here. So now we need to actually update. So we grab the ticker dot on change. In here we want the value. We want ticker 1 underscore change and ticker 2 dot on change. Here we want value ticker 2 change. All right. So there we have this. Now we need to go back and create up this this source data. And I'm going to go back and do this with our actual data in here. We'll call this descriptive statistics. So we want to actually have, and let me, here's the bokeh gallery stocks. So here we're going to be grabbing and doing this, but I do not like just throwing in the text there. We're going to make an interactive data table. So let's go on and do this. So first off, For the descriptive statistics, we want the stats. It's going to be round data.describe .reset index. And I'll tell you guys why we need to reset the index here in a minute. It doesn't, currently data table has a bit of a problem whenever we're wanting to grab the index. It gives us just a numbered index. It doesn't give us a named index. And so to do this, we'll actually go about this in a little bit of a different way. So let's do stats source is what we were missing. So, and this will be column data source. Data here is stats. And then let's go on and do stat columns here. And I'm going to do table column field is equal to some column. And I want the title to be some column for call and our stats.columns. And then let's do data table in here, and that's data table. We want our source is going to be our stat source. Our columns is equal to our stat columns. Our width here is going to be 350. Our height will also be 350 for now. And then one last thing that we need to do in here is we actually need to get rid of the index. And so we'll say none. So let's go on to back to the end. So this fixed all of our issues in here. We're creating our table. We're using the stat source in here that we've created here. That takes care of this when we are updating our data to our stat source. So the last thing that we need to do in here is go on and actually create the layout. So this is rows, columns. So we want to have let's do this little column here first. So we want a column with a row. So let's just create layouts. So widgets in here is going to be column. This will be ticker 1, ticker 2, data table. And then we'll do something like main row in here is going to be row, and we'll do the correlation with our widgets. And so let's before we do anything else, let's actually go on and take a look at this. So let's do show main row. And I don't know, this may have a hiccup on us. Nope. Okay, so that actually works out quite well. Now there is some issues in here. Notice here that let me zoom in a little bit. Our indices here aren't named correctly. They're just T1, T2, T1 returns, T2 returns. We can fix that in a little bit. But what I'm more worried about is if there's a little bit of a gap in here. But right now, let's just not worry about it. It actually looks pretty decent. Because again, I think that this video is starting to get long, and I kind of want everything to finish up here in a second. So now we're going to have a series column, and this will be our TS1, TS2. And then let's actually have a layout in here. And this will be another column, which is a main row and a series. Okay, so let's double check. Show layout. Okay, so that works out pretty well. There's a little... there it is. Okay, so this actually seems to work out pretty well. Now, notice something here. What's happening? Nothing is changing right now, okay? But this is changing. So when we highlight here, it highlights over there. These are all connected. That works pretty well. So we should now, if we go on and actually do this the proper way, if we add in the bokeh server lines in here. We need cur.doc in here dot add root layout, and then we need in here cur.doc dot title. Let's give it and just say stock dashboard. Then we should be able to go to the command line and do something like bokeh serve -- show, and then here we put in the name of the project, which is bokeh fin dashboard.py, and we should be able to run this now, and everything runs up. And if everything works, did that work? Yeah. Okay. So now everything changes. So right now we have Microsoft returns versus Netflix returns. If I change this to Apple, everything will change. This turns to Apple returns, Netflix returns. And then we also have in here our interactive table. Now, the only thing that I would go about changing this, you guys can think about this as well, is change the style and then maybe add in here the actual name. So, for example, this should be Apple, this should be Netflix, Netflix underscore returns, or Apple underscore returns, Netflix underscore returns. But I will leave that to you guys to try and solve. All right, and so hopefully, guys, you enjoyed this and it was useful to you. If you like this, please comment, subscribe, and hit that like button, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.